I've been suffering from patchy Wi-Fi ever since I went with BT Infinity. Their router, to be perfectly honest, is crap. I've been meaning to get a Netgear Orbi for quite some time, but I've been waiting for the prices to come down. But on Black Friday, Amazon had this for £99, and the reviews seem quite good. And it's a 3-node mesh. It's nowhere near as advanced as the Orbi, which is 3-channel backhaul, etc. But I thought for £100, surely it's worth a punt. I also like the fact that unlike most of the other ones on the market at this sort of price, you actually get 3 LANs, because most of my property is wired for LAN. But obviously when you have lots of smart devices like Tado radiator valves on every radiator and numerous Alexas and so on, it's a bit of a pain in the backside dropping the Wi-Fi. So we'll have a quick look and see what we get. It's nicely packaged. You'd be forgiven for thinking that it was something like a TP-Link or Netgear product in how it's packaged. So they're definitely trying to emulate that type of brand. Oh, so it opens that way. So yeah, very nicely packaged for the money. So that one there is your main router, because it's a different colour on the top. So what you do with this is you put this next to where your internet comes into the house, which is usually a router with a modem built in. If you want an older BT Infinity, you'll have an OpenReach modem, so you're actually lucky there, because you can throw away the BT hub and just plug your OpenReach modem straight into here and let this do all the work. If you want a home hub or a smart hub like I am, unfortunately everything's built into the actual router and you can't disable anything and put it into a modem only mode, so you would have to switch off Wi-Fi, disconnect any LANs from the back you've got, plug them into this instead, or a switch, and then just loop it. And you're double natting, which isn't ideal if you're trying to access security cameras, etc. on your mobile away from the property, but that's pretty much your only solution really. But in my situation, I've actually got Virgin installed this week as well, so I've got Virgin 200 now. And the reason I did that, other than the fact that the BT Infinity, I'm not getting the speeds that I've been promised for the last 3 years, their router, even though it's crap like the Infinity ones for Wi-Fi, you can stick it into modem only mode, which I'll be doing in this video, and then this will be taking control. I have a main switch, the whole house is wired for Ethernet. So there's only going to be one feed coming from this up to my switch in my office, which then goes through all to the different rooms in the house. But obviously that doesn't help when you've got lots of Wi-Fi products. Just about all your smart products these days are Wi-Fi. I mean, we've got an Echo in pretty much every room, for example. They're all Wi-Fi, you can't Ethernet connect them. We've got Tado heating, we've got well, the list goes on, we've got loads and loads, just like every other houses have with tablets and smartphones and so on. So yeah, coming back to these, look nice and tidy. These are your nodes, which are supposed to be all pre-configured, but we'll see. Again, each node has got 3 LANs, which is good. Granted, only one is 100, but you don't have to use them. And as I say, a lot of products you don't get any at all, any Ethernet ports out, so I think it's quite good that you've actually got those should you need them, if you want to direct connect to a second PC in a bedroom or a smart TV or something like that. And assuming these are your power supplies. I don't really only got 2 boxes. I'm not the best at opening things today because I've burnt myself recently, as you can probably see. So there's 2 power supplies there. DC connectors. Something I noticed that you don't have on these for the price is you don't actually have any USBs anywhere, but to be perfectly honest, it's a third of the price of going for an Orbi system, so yep, you didn't give you an Ethernet cable, that's nice. And then I guess that is going to be your setup guide. Apparently these are really easy to set up, but we will see. We've got the HALO Base 3 here, but obviously you don't have to use all 3 if you don't want to. What we'll do is come back to that shortly. That was just a quick unboxing. What we'll do now is start configuring everything and do a speed test. So I'm just doing a quick speed test on the actual Wi-Fi as it comes from the router at the moment in my workshop. My workshop must be what? Well, it's a converted detached garage, which is about 10 and 15 metres away from the main house, and as you can see, it's struggling to even connect, let him do anything. Here we go. So there you go. I mean, that is terrible. This is with the Virgin hub, because that's what I've set this phone to at the moment, but as you can see, that's terrible. You're not getting any signal at all, so you're getting an idea of what sort of speed improvement we'll get with these nodes, if they actually work or not. So I'm just popping the Virgin hub into modem mode. Very simple to do, just log into it via web browser and select modem mode and let it reboot. The status light on the front will change to violet, and then it's just a case of plugging your main mesh mode to one of the Wi-Fi ports on the back of the hub. Okay, so now it's a case of download the app. I'm using an Android device, so it's just a case of going to the Play Store and downloading the app. It's also available for iOS, so you can use it on Apple devices as well. Once you're on there, you'll be prompted to log into the mesh. It usually will come up and say something like Wavlink mesh. You can change that later on. Once you've connected to that on your phone, you can log in and configure the app to do the initial setup. One thing I did like was the fact that you could go in and you could change the IP range on your DHCP settings. Initially it's configured as you can see 10, whereas most devices on an Ethernet from default would be on a 1, so I changed that. Rebooted it, and everything worked then that was on my Ethernet, which had fixed IPs like my Synology, etc. So that wasn't a problem. Connecting the additional mesh modes, they're supposed to be all pre-configured, but what I found was that was not the case. I plugged them in and all that happened was they would just blink red, which when you check the instruction manual said they weren't getting a signal and needed to be paired. So all the claims that the system was prepared, ready to go out the box, in this case it wasn't, but the box was brand new sealed, so maybe I was just unlucky, I don't know. But anyway, I paired them. It was simple enough to do once you push the buttons on both devices just to pair them. After about 30 seconds or so it would pick it up and find it. But then I over the time of using it, over a week or two, one of the nodes, no matter what I did, would just keep losing connection. It would be fine for an hour or so and then it would leave it. And we're not talking like, it was many rooms away. It would even do it when it was literally just a room away from the modem. So that was one of the downsides that I found to this system. The thing I did find though was I was constantly getting problems where on Wi-Fi certain devices would be saying that there was no internet, even though the Ethernet was working fine and the actual app itself was saying that I had internet. You would log it on and the Wi-Fi strength would say that it was there fine, but there was no internet access, even though, as I say, there was on other devices connected to the same hub. So that was a bit of a pain. Had to reset it a few times, update the firmware, and then it seemed to sort itself out. Another problem that I did find after I'd been using the system for a few days was that one of the nodes would disconnect itself for no reason. I'll cover the nodes in a moment anyway, because I wasn't that happy with them, to be honest. It's nice to be able to split both the Wi-Fi bands, for example, and also to be able to configure your IP address range from what the factory default is, because on a lot of the systems you can't do that. So that is a plus for this system. But ultimately, over using it for just over a month, I just had far too many problems with devices saying there were no internet when there was. And as I say, the mesh nodes themselves would randomly disconnect from each other. There wouldn't be any flashing indicators on them to say there was a problem. They'd still be the solid colour that they should be. The app would report that the connection was fine. But if you tried to connect to Wi-Fi on that actual mesh node, it would say there was no internet connection and you couldn't do anything. The only thing that worked solidly all the time was the actual Ethernet side, which, you know, at the end of the day you can get a much better modem to do that. Even your internet provider modem router does a better job, to be honest, than what this did. So all in all, I was pretty disappointed with it, but I suppose that's why it's a cheap system. So needless to say, after about 3 or 4 weeks use of it, I had enough and I just unplugged it and went back to the Virgin hub while I ordered a different system, which I'll cover in another video. Incidentally, the new system that I ordered has been perfectly fine. It's been rock solid. It's an Ubiquiti system that I'm using now. Well, it's a fair bit more expensive, but I guess the old adage, you get what you pay for, is relevant in this case. So, my thoughts on this, the Wavlink 3-node mesh system. Well, initially, when I first got it, I was quite impressed. I thought it was a good value system. I thought it was nicely packaged. It was well built. The nodes all seemed to be quite substantial. Initial setup, I had a few hiccups. I had to uninstall and install it a couple of times to get it to work. Also, the nodes were not pre-configured, even though they were supposed to be. I had to manually set all those up as well. But once it was up and running, it seemed to be okay for the first few hours. But then I started running into problems, and the problems outweighed basically keeping the system, to be honest. Well, what I'll do first is I'll cover the good points of the system. I like that you can split the SSID channels, so you can split your 2.4 and your 5 GHz Wi-Fi signals, because not all devices like the fact when it's band steering. So the fact you can split them and even give them separate names if you wanted is a plus, which is something I did and used. There's a lot of other configuration options on there as well. Coming back to my actual experiences of it, once it was all set up, one of the nodes would keep disconnecting randomly. That was the 3rd node, and that was initially in the garage workshop, but I brought that into the house. I put that in the kitchen, which is basically one room from the hall where the actual main root and mesh node was. That would still disconnect. The other node was upstairs, again probably a room away, after you take into account the stairs. That randomly would say there was no internet to devices connected to it. Both of the mesh nodes on the app said that they were fine, there was no problems, that they were connected, then they had internet. The only way to solve it was to rebuild the whole system. It never affected any wired devices, it was only the odd, you know, like for example, if you were walking around the house and your phone went to that node, it would then say that it was connected to the mesh system, but there was no internet available, which obviously is not great for a system that's supposed to do exactly the opposite of that, give you internet in every room. So that was a big downer. Like I say, the second mesh node will keep disconnecting and flashing red randomly for no reason, even when it was practically next to the main router. And thirdly, I had a couple of devices that just didn't want to connect to it at all, even though I'd split the SSID. One of those was a Neato vacuum robot vacuum cleaner, which has never given me any trouble over the like 2.5 years that I've owned it. So with all the dropouts and everything and the unstable Wi-Fi signal, this just kept going on for 3 to 4 weeks. So in the end, I've just had enough and I went and bought a different mesh system, and I'm not using this one now. This is going back to Amazon because luckily I had a couple of months return on it with it being bought before Christmas. What I'm using now is a Ubiquiti system, which to date has been rock solid, no problems. Initially set up itself straight away. All my devices, including the Nito, connected straight first time to it. The band steering seems to work fine. So I'm going to cover that in a different video. So basically, to summarise this, if you can get it working and you want to just slightly upgrade your existing internet provider router modem, then yeah, go for it. My honest opinion is save your money, put it towards something better. So that's just my thoughts. Obviously, you know, let me know what you think in the comments. If you've got one of these Wavlink systems and it's up and running fine for you, then, you know, let me know. So I hope you found that video useful. As always, if you'd like and subscribe, and hope to see you again in a future video. Bye for now.